MP for Halton, Price and Haldon, and also Chris Davis, the Liberal Democrat MEP for the northwest of England. And in my hands, Chris Davis, I have got your tax return, effectively, which is your open declaration of what you've been paying.
Well, you should have, because it's on my website, but I hope you've got the updated one, because I've just checked myself, and we've been hacked, apparently, and the one that I could find for myself was a couple of years out of date. But yeah, I've been declaring my tax returns on my website for the past couple of years, and frankly, no one until yourself seems to have noticed.
Well, it says employment 57,657. Yeah. That's your salary as an MEP.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago. That was when we were paid the same as MPs at Westminster, rather than having a universal European salary. I think my current tax returns would show about £82,000.
Oh, blimey! So you've gone up about 30% in 2 years, have you?
Well, actually, the currency changed. When we voted for the change, we would actually have taken a pay cut, or at least British MEPs would have. But then the pound fell against the euro, and our salary went up proportionally.
God, well, this is the most distracting start to an interview I've ever done. Anyway, how do we get over that? David Davis, you tell us whether you think this is a good idea or not.
I think the opening conversation demonstrates some of the problems.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't. Very simply, I mean, there are all sorts of reasons against. I mean, I'm a campaigner both on privacy and transparency, ironically, and so sometimes these things clash with each other. And for example, I'm in favour of publicising in detail the tax returns of big companies like Vodafone and Goldman Sachs, people like that have been in the news recently. But I think this is an intrusion too far. And the reason really is quite well demonstrated by what's been going on with in the London election. I mean, there's been a lot of rows about various people's tax returns, but it's a distraction from what's actually very important, like whether any of the policies put up by each of the candidates actually work, how you fund them, what they're going to deliver for London. And this is what's going to happen if we go down this route. And you've seen it in America too. I mean, all this fuss about the various tax returns of the various candidates. What matters is whether they're going to be any good at the job.
And I know you've got a concern, David, about the difference in income and wealth, because someone can live in a castle but have no income.
Yeah, I mean, the argument, I mean, if you go down this route, the argument that is actually in favour of it, what I think would support Chris's case, is, does somebody's financial standing affect their judgment on policy? It does, so if the Chancellor changes the policy on a tax rate, does it affect him? Is it something he's done for his own interest? Now, to do that properly, you've actually got to take on board not just today's tax return, which is a snapshot and tells you not very much about somebody's wealth and their expectations, but also what they expect to inherit, how they divide their income with their wife. They might have rental income that goes to their wife or their partner, whether they're a beneficiary of trust funds, whether they have offshore assets. I mean, you've just got to do a hell of a lot more than do the tax return, which I think is very intrusive. But if you want to go down that route, that's where it's got to end up.
So, Chris Davis, looking at your tax return, and albeit it's 2 years out of date, as you say, I see your salary, but it doesn't tell me the value of the house you live in, which could be £5 million.
Much more importantly, it doesn't actually give the details of the expenses that you receive as a parliamentarian for living in Brussels, which is a daily allowance, which exceeds the which is tax free. But so
how much is that per day then?
Well, I make a separate declaration about that. So you'll find that on my website. It's more than €40,000 I claimed last year for those expenses. So yes, the point that David makes is perfectly fair. A tax return in itself does not reveal full details. It doesn't, for example, reveal the details of your wife if your wife happens to be the main income earner in a family.
But you're pushing for tax returns to be filled out publicly by politicians or not?
I think we're going down this road, and I think it's inevitable, and I think we might as well just bite the bullet.
Well, then why not? To extend it, Chris. Sorry, why not say, because as you pointed out, it's meaningless just to go on income. Why not do what David Davis says? If you're going to do it, publish everything: inheritance, trust funds, property value, savings accounts, the whole lot.
Well, let's just look at where there is some instances of this in practice already, and classically it's Norway, where I think tax returns are publicly available for every citizen if you want to go and dig them up. And in Sweden, they are available for higher-end income earners. Now, both of those societies, Scandinavian societies, I think would be regarded as very open and liberal, good protection of liberty, but also there's a strong element of equality running through those societies, a sense of community, perhaps, that may be missing here. there are obvious problems, and you highlight them, David highlights them too. But I think we're going down that road, and I'm in favour of that sort of openness and transparency.
So, David, what do you think the effects would be on the House of Commons? I'm just wondering whether the likes of, let's think of a classic example, Michael Heseltine, who's, got a lot of business interest in it, whether somebody like him would want to become an MP.
Well, that's another issue which is very important. I think there's the deterrent against becoming an MP is getting bigger and bigger, and ironically, the more successful you are, if you're a self-made man, it's a terrible phrase, but if you've made a lot of money outside, your propensity to go into the House of Commons will go down, and you'll end up with a mixture of people, some of whom are very rich and don't care and got lots and lots of background, and others who've got no money at all and so have got nothing to lose by it. I mean, that wouldn't lead you to have the best possible House of Commons that you could possibly have to represent people. And at the end of the day, that's what we're about. We're about trying to make sure we get the best government for people, the best representation for people. And frankly, an awful lot of this we've seen in the last few days has been reaction to very short-term pressures which arise from, frankly, policy errors, policy mistakes. I mean, see the stuff we've had today about charities. And it also creates, that raises another question which I'd like to put into this, and that is this. When you're going to have a sort of a battle between candidates for a seat, whether it's a constituency or whether it's inside the House fighting for elected office, you're going to find people saying, oh, look, he pays less tax than the other chap. His rate of tax is lower. Well, that might be all sorts of reasons for that. It might be because he's been sensible about providing for a pension and the other one hasn't. Or it might be because he put a lot of money into charity and the other one hasn't. You're going to get lots of very tabloid factoids which are going to dominate the debate, not actually sensible discussions and sensible debates. And I'm afraid, whilst I rather admire Norway for all sorts of reasons, this is not one aspect I think is better than others.
Chris, can we tempt you off the fence to say you're either in favour of this or against it?
I'm in favour of publication. I love the idea that we're suddenly going to have sensible political debates. I fear that certainly when it comes to the European Union and discussion about that, they have been sadly lacking in our country for a very long time.
Chris,
I'm not going to get into discussing whether EU's any good at debating.
Chris, aren't we? But seriously,
one thing,
sorry, Chris. David's point, just quickly, is that actually you will get an awful lot of debate, public debate, about people's personal earnings, and that's just a waste of airtime.
Well, you can have you can also have debates about the size of cars people are driving, or visible things, visible trappings of wealth. What house are they living in? What part of the country are they living in? Yes, we're always going to have. You can't separate personalities from politics. I mean, the Tories at the moment are being hit by Labour as being a bunch of toffs. And yet and they're being hit by Labour politicians, most of whom went to public schools themselves, and are not short of a bob or two. So I'm afraid that's just the cut and thrust of the game.
Thank you both very much indeed. Chris Davis is Liberal Democrat MEP for North West England, and he's been, as we said, publishing his tax return for the last 2 years. You can see it on his website. Talking to us from Brussels. And David Davis, Conservative MP for Halton, Price and Haldon.